Welcome back to Benchmark. In our Spotlight segment today, we talk to the Managing Director of ACL Cables, Suren Madanayaka, on a range of subjects. First off, I asked Suren what he makes of Sri Lanka's post-war development, which, in the eyes of many, is making rapid progress. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be on Benchmark, Suren. Now, as things are panning out in Sri Lanka, how do you see it for both the nation and business?
I believe there is a good opportunity here. Basically, since the end of the war, we've got so much of areas opening out. If we talk about our industry, there's the north and east opening out, which is a totally new area when it comes to electrification. Then the new projects that are going ahead, that certainly would require a lot of cables. We see a huge improvement in the tourism industry, at least the new hotels coming up, even though the arrivals are somewhat slightly higher numbers, but the future for the tourist industry seems pretty good with all these hotel constructions. For the industry, certainly a good time. We're seeing the house builders starting again with the low interest rates. And you can see so much of lands cleared in the city itself for development.
So like you said, no doubt there's a lot of post-war development underway, which is exceptionally good. But at the same time, there are all those mega infrastructure projects and regular projects too being given out to foreign concerns. What are the pros and cons of this?
I would take a lot of this as, I would say, negative areas. At the end of a large-scale project, certainly we see an asset coming to the country. That is absolutely a good thing. But during the project implementation period, the community does not benefit by this. If you take, for instance, Norotchole or the Hambantota port, I don't think even the small Kade in any of these places got any business through the project that time. Certainly, the industries within Sri Lanka never got any thing out of these projects. What I see is most of these projects, there could be negotiations done. There are world-class companies in Sri Lanka where the projects, products that go into these projects can be sourced locally, at least to the tune of about 40%. For CEB projects, for instance, we can see there are certain projects where it is a material supply project, where if you club everything together, all the items together, then it's very difficult for any local company to get into it. But you see certain areas, maybe if you take a project which has been awarded recently, there about 60% of the goods could be sourced from Sri Lanka. We got transformers, we got very good Lanka Transformers being a very good manufacturing company. We have ACL and so many other cable manufacturers who can give first class products. We have pole suppliers and with all these things and hardware suppliers that are required for installation, it could be easily supplied from the local industry.
Now, while there is absolute truth in what you say, Suren, many of the contracts are linked to either aid or grants or financial assistance given by these governments. For example, China, where when a foreign government offers funding assistance, they often insist that the work related also, either fully or partially, is awarded to its people or businesses. So how do we get out of this?
Well, I would say, first of all, when it's grants, there is no problem, right? Because that's a wholehearted gift that we are getting. But when it comes to loans, these are more or less on commercial terms. So I would say the so-called soft loans, I believe, are not so soft as our. But if we do get the loans from within Sri Lanka, I think some of these projects, now all of them don't have to be funded from outside. We have our banks are strong enough now to provide funding for these projects. If you do it that way, we save so much more, and the money retains within Sri Lanka, and the community can benefit by that. Buying the products locally with this would be an added benefit, because let's say if you're spending $100 for a product to be bought from outside, the entire $100 goes away if you buy it from outside. But if you buy it locally, at least the local component retains within Sri Lanka. I believe in these cases, funding from banks within Sri Lanka is what we should look at.
Now, the last Nielsen survey that LMD did revealed that more than 80% of our business people are very upbeat about Sri Lanka's investment prospects. Are you confident that the BOI will actually meet its ambitious target of $1 billion in investment for the year? How confident are you about our investment prospects?
I believe it's possible. It's possible. It's just getting the policies, consistent policies within the country. If you look at policies vary very easily in Sri Lanka. So I think we have to have a very consistent policy, and then that itself will give enough confidence for foreign investors to come into Sri Lanka.
Well, we've been seeing a very interesting stock market these days. What's actually going on?
Stock market's a funny place in Sri Lanka, all right. It's that is giving a really bad name to our country. It's you might see a lot of activity within Sri Lanka, but it's not what I take as a real stock market, because there's so much insider trading that's going on. It's a bad word, I know, but it's very see-through that it's all quite a lot of insider trading, and that if you don't control these things properly, you're going to see all the investors going away from Sri Lanka, even though it could be the best performing market, but we will see investors going out if it's not regulated properly.
Time now for a commercial break. On the other side, Suren Madanayaka offers his views on insider trading, IPOs and state institutions dabbling in the equities market. Stay with us.
A new era has begun. Finally, a smartphone that sees the world as we do. LG Optimus 3D, the world's first full 3D smartphone with dual core, dual channel, dual memory. A super smartphone that outmuscles the rest in speed and performance. Life's good when your phone isn't just smart, it's genius. LG Optimus 3D.
If you're looking for a leasing company to make your wheels go round, with fast, friendly and hassle-free service, together with flexibility and the best interest rates in town, let us show you how we can make your world go round. People's Leasing Company. We're the #1 in leasing because pleasing people is our #1 priority.
Thanks for staying with us. We now have more excerpts from our exclusive interview with Suren Madanayaka. Well, there have been a few lessons to be learned from global stock markets, Raj Rajaratnam's sentencing being the most recent. Where insider trading is concerned, are we just letting it happen? Are the regulators just turning a blind eye and just letting everything happen and letting the market do what it can and should do?
If you look at price bands are brought in, but it doesn't apply to a lot of companies. Why doesn't it apply? I have no answer to that. It's a very controversial subject that I'm talking about, but I feel if you need all the investors to be in place, the retail investor is absolutely necessary for a market, and by doing these punting and running stocks, it is just going to get the retail investor out, because once burnt, they will never come back.
Suren, what about the IPO frenzy? At the beginning of this year, we saw a whole host of IPOs coming out into the market and many of them opening at multiples of their issue price. But right now, whatever IPO that opens is struggling to keep itself afloat.
I would say Sri Lanka is more or less immune to quite a lot of the outside world, I would say, when it comes to the stock market. I think there were too many IPOs that came in one go, and they were very large IPOs as well. And people are expecting 100% returns on any of these things. So I think that's why there were a lot of investors who went in without even knowing the company or companies that came out. So what I see is the returns that you should not go for very high return expectations, and look at the good stocks to invest. It doesn't have to be an IPO. There are enough stocks which are trading way below the values that it should be.
How do you view the state's presence in a rather big way, the fact that they are playing in the share market? For instance, the EPF says that 7% of its assets, our assets, the public assets, have been invested in equities. Now, do you think this is reasonable?
I believe it's a good thing that the state is investing in that. It should have a diverse portfolio of investments in their own sense. The investments done by the EPF should not go in. It has to be good shares that they should go in for.
What about the conflict of interest where, say, state institutions dabble in the stock market? For example, some say there are times when buy and sell orders actually border on market manipulation, given the government's PR strategy in place at that time.
You could certainly see conflict of interest in certain cases, yes. But if you go on fundamentally correct stocks, it doesn't have to be the case.
So how is the manufacturing industry faring these days? Not forgetting, of course, that there is almost a global recession in the offing and you are working in a global marketplace. How do all these things affect your industry?
Savitri, we were looking at increasing our turnover, 50% of our turnover to be in exports. We were going on the correct track. By 2008, we had reached 30% of our turnover in exports. But unfortunately, with the global downturn, it has come down because the demand from those countries have come down. We are now at about 12 to 15%. But I still feel that we have a good opportunity from this country to export. And we are, as ACL, we are looking at least 20% this year from exports. The commodity prices, again, I feel most of these are manipulated. Copper shouldn't be at these prices. Certainly we saw a correction to a certain extent. Copper going from 9,000 to 6,700 within a month shows that it's not purely on supply and demand. So there's a lot of hedge funds manipulating.
These are some things that we ourselves will not be able to do, but then we have to look at these scenarios and work with the rest of the market.
What about the manufacturing industry, Suren? How is it faring these days?
Well, we can control it to a large extent. If you look at the import bills, apart from oil and the necessary necessary things, there's certainly been a commodity price increase. That could be one reason for the import bills being high. But then we have also gone in for non-essential items. That's I think the large increase has come from non-essential items. So at this time, I think we should try to control ourselves to a certain level, and if it's possible, buy locally produced goods, and where you don't need to send our hard-earned dollars outside.
That was Suren Madanayaka. The Voice of Business is coming up, but before that, here are some messages from our sponsors.